Good evening. Good evening. To all of those at the bar, let's come have a seat. You know, I love a challenge. Someone told me we wouldn't start on time tonight, but we're gonna start on time. Anthony Williams, every time I look up, you at the bar getting something to eat. So as I mentioned last night, this particular anniversary celebration had been in the oven for a couple of years. I was thinking back this morning, we had the MXIBS 50th kickoff back in October of 2019. And I recall that night specifically because we had Brother Charles Ransom came down from Michigan and was on program. We had Gerard McClendon, and Callie Crossley was our keynote speaker to kick off the event. If you had told me that night that we would not be celebrating the actual 50th until April of 2022, I probably would have hit you in the face. But as I learned this afternoon, WAF doesn't mean getting violent. So I would have done something, probably had a few choice words. I say all of that to say thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for allowing us to maneuver through the pandemic, to maneuver through all of the special requests, all the special needs, all the accommodations, and know that we love you. The MXIBS for 50 years plus 2 has been doing things to build bridges across not only the campus, but in the Crawfordsville community. There are some exciting things that are occurring with the Institute. Two that I am most proud of is our new relationship with Stewart Speakers out of Indianapolis, Indiana, to help reestablish ourselves for having national speakers on campus. Anybody who knows what that expense is like now, you can appreciate the fact that we had both Dr. Melissa Harris-Perry, Dr. Eddie Glaude in person on campus, and we had Dr. William Barber via Zoom, all this academic year. And so that's pretty amazing. In addition, we are fortunate to have a summer program, Pathway to Your Future, which will introduce rising high school sophomores and juniors to the Wabash campus. These young men will come from as far away as possibly California, Arizona, Chicago, parts of Texas, and Indianapolis. We believe that if we introduce them to the college at a much earlier point in their high school career, it will make Wabash a much easier decision when they become a senior. So I'm not going to take up any more time. I'm going to try to sit tonight and enjoy the program. And it's always good when you can turn over a great responsibility to someone you trust and someone who's a friend. And so a few years ago, I called this Wabash alum and I said, hey, I want you to be my Martin Luther King Day speaker for next year. When do I need to be there, was his response. And so for friends and alums like that, I am forever grateful for all that you do and you bring to the college. He's a busy man, but Wabash still holds a special place in his heart. Right out of Brebeuf High School in Indianapolis, a 78 graduate of Wabash College, the extraordinarily talented Kevin Chavis will take us through the balance of the program.
Thank you very much, Dean Jones. You talking about slapping people, I'm gonna make sure that I'm gonna be on point. In fact, what I'm gonna do though, Steve, because I wanna see how you react, I'm gonna get you front row seats at the Oscars next year. Sorry, y'all. You know, you gotta work out that aggression the best way you can. I'm so honored to be here. I mean, look at this crowd. Give yourselves a hand. What a night. I was sharing with my good friends over there, Jack, Eugene, Larry, Joe Mims, that when we left the campus many years ago, when we left the campus, there's no way we can anticipate the depth and breadth of the influence of the Institute on this sacred college grounds. So I'm so proud to be here, proud to be a Wabash alum, proud of the current students and what they're doing. Give them a hand. Now, one of the things Stephen said, now Kevin, he said, I know you like to talk, so you gotta follow the 3 Bs, be brief, be brilliant, and be gone. So I'm not going to keep talking, but I do want to make sure that we hold each other up tonight. We don't come together often. This is a sacred opportunity, a great opportunity. And to start it off, I want John Harvey to come up and give us the invocation. Thanks, John.
You know, it is an absolute joy just to be here on campus for this event and to be able to look out and see all of you here. What a blessing. But I know my good friend Steve, and when he says be succinct and be brief, he means it. So let us pray. Dear Lord, we give you thanks and praise tonight. You have blessed Wabash College. You have blessed the Malcolm X Institute. We pray for those who have given leadership to this wonderful institution. We remember Horace Turner. We thank you for Dean Jones. And we pray for all those in the future who will give leadership to MXI. And just now, dear Father, we ask that you will bless the food that has been prepared for us out of the bounty of your earth. May it give us strength and nourishment so that we will always be able to serve you both in spirit and in truth. And thank you, God, for being good to us. For truly, this is the prayer we offer in the name that is above every name. In that name we pray. Amen.
Thank you, John. I have not met the new president. I know he's here. I'm looking forward to meeting him and hearing from him. He has been with the college for many years, and he's deeply committed to the Institute. Indeed, I've heard that even during the time where we all suffered the ramifications of what happened to George Floyd in Minnesota, he was a constant presence at the Institute and was even there when the Derek Chauvin verdict was rendered. So without further ado, let's have remarks from our president, Scott Feller.
It's a tough job when you're between Wabash men and dinner, but I'm going to take this moment to say a few things, because this is a very special moment in the history, not only of the Malcolm X Institute of Black Studies, but in the history of our college. But before I begin, I want to ask everyone to join me in thanking the man who is behind this celebration today, Dean Stephen Jones. We're also fortunate to have Dean Jones. He represents everything that is good and important about the Malcolm X Institute of Black Studies. Certainly, when I became the president of Wabash College, you can imagine there were many things that attracted me to the job. But to continue to work with my colleague, Dean Jones, was high on that list, and I'm so proud of the work that we've continued to do. So I've been at the college for a while. This is my 24th year. Usually when I tell people that, they're very impressed. Of course, that means I've been here less than half the time of the Malcolm X Institute of Black Studies. And so in anticipation of tonight's historic celebration, I knew I needed to do some research about the early era of the Malcolm X Institute. Though I'll admit, looking through the archives and catching up on old bachelor articles is certainly going to pale in comparison with the lived experiences of our alumni here tonight, many of whose experiences I've heard in the past, and many more I was able to hear this weekend, and many more I hope to hear in the future. Because it's those experiences that I want to know about as we set Wabash on the path to its 200th anniversary in 2032. In a bachelor article in February of 1970, Jack Johnson wrote about Malcolm X, who he said was, quote, the man who articulated the frustrations of an entire people. Jack went on to ask, how is it that a black man receives such recognition in a white-oriented society? It's because Malcolm had more than a dream. He had a vision for the realization of his aspirations. In a time when critical analysis was forbidden, Malcolm analyzed. While black people were thrown crumbs, Malcolm called for an end to the slavery that changed every man of color. And near the end of that article, Jack called for action. Quote, let us remember, and in remembering, dedicate ourselves to the continuation of the revolutionary struggle. The continuation of the revolutionary struggle. These words certainly give me a sense of what it was like to be a black student at Wabash in early 1970. By the fall semester of that year, the Institute had been established. A front page article in the Bachelor included a large headline, Malcolm X Institute opens for students. And it included a photo of the house at 416 West Wabash Avenue. According to that article, quote, it didn't break out of the ground overnight. Back in the fall of '69, several students and a few faculty members saw the need for a Black Studies department. This department, they felt, should include student participation. That certainly makes it a Wabash institution. The article continues. Along with student participation, they wanted money and power, just like a department. As the academic dean, I can tell you that certainly rings true 50 years later. So right away, no department. Wabash spirit, however, drove them on as Vic Ransom drew up plans and worked on a preliminary budget. By the time of spring 1970 had rolled around, plans for the Institute had stabilized, a budget was approved, the board of directors was designated, and thus the Institute materialized. This article, in telling the campus how the Institute had come about, also spoke to the Institute's purpose. Quote, the Institute's going to help everybody get their heads and hearts together. That sounds like the kind of thing Dean Jones and I talk about every week. And yet, in 1970, the struggle continued. In October of 1970, Alex Haley had just finished his book that would inspire the award-winning television series Roots when he visited Wabash to give an invited lecture, a tradition that we are returning to this year. He was also interviewed in The Bachelor, during which he accurately understood why our newly formed institute had taken Malcolm's name. Dr. Haley wrote, "The significance of Malcolm might be symbolized by the fact that you have an institute named after him. Of all the available names, your black students have chosen Malcolm X's name. I think that in itself symbolizes what his impact was. He became the embodiment of a new way of thinking for a new generation of black people." Yet the struggle continued. In an issue of The Bachelor very early the next year, in 1971-72, there was an item on page 2 simply titled "Memo to Black Freshmen." While no author is named, it's been suggested to me that Doc McDowell wrote it as a sort of advice column in which he urges black freshmen to focus first on being good students. From the article, quote, "My argument is that black freshmen should spend most of their time as students. To do otherwise necessarily, it seems to me, means that the brothers will miss out on educating themselves in the classroom." The author went on to share sage advice for freshmen from other prominent people on campus, from Dr. Finley Campbell, who shared his sage advice at a chapel talk this week on Thursday. "Don't forget while you're here why you are here, to become black radical professionals. And remember, I'm your co-worker in becoming professionals." From Sid Johnson, class of 1974, "Book hard, make grades, and get your degree." Gary Suggs, also class of 74, "Quit half-stepping and ask somebody." And it will surprise no one in this room that Horace Turner's advice to the freshmen arriving in 1971 was the same that he gave throughout his career. Quote, "Pull together and be your brother's keeper." Friends, you've shared in the struggle from those early days of the Institute across more than a half-century of brotherhood. And yes, the struggle continues, but the bonds of friendship, as demonstrated by this gathering tonight, shows that you are your brother's keepers. Horace would be proud. Welcome home.
And following up on the President's remarks, I do want to acknowledge and recognize any founders of the Institute that are here. I know that Keith Nelson and Chuck Ransom. Stand up. If you're here, stand up. Let's show them. You know they're sitting in the back to make sure we do right. You know that, right? You know that's why they're in the back. This community would not have survived, the Institute would not have survived, but for the steadfast and consistent support of many members of the faculty and Wabash community. I'm gonna call out a few names, and I'm sorry if I overlook anyone. Austin Brooks, Bill Domel, my good friend David Hadley, I don't know if he's here. David Hadley, yes. Warren Rosenberg, I thought I saw Warren. Of course, Peter Frederick and Jasmine Robinson. I didn't know you were here, Professor Hadley, because I had a lot of classes with him. There's a lot I could say, but I won't say it right now. I actually love him. Thank you very much. It's good to see you. So now we'll have remarks from the National Association of Wabash Men. Kip Chase can come forward. Thanks, Kip.
Okay, you mentioned being between a group of people and dinner. I think I am officially that person. I'm going to be brief, but on behalf of the National Association of Wabash Men, I just wanted to acknowledge everybody here, an incredible, incredible accomplishment. 50 years celebrating the MXI. Let's do another round of applause for that. I'd be remiss, I'm told Mark Nichols is here. And if Mark could just stand up just for a moment, I'm going to acknowledge him. I will not embarrass you, I promise you, Mark. But there are some parallels that you need to hear. As we know, this celebration would have occurred 2 years ago. Mark Nichols was the president of the National Association of Wabash Men 2 years ago. And Mark, to follow your leadership, and there's so many parallels that I personally want to share that also I think apply to the MXI, which is, look, you're somebody that so many of us look up to, yet you turn us into people that then others want to look up to. And that is an incredible, incredible legacy. So congratulations to everybody here, excited to be a part of it, be a part of this celebration. And on behalf of over 13,000 alumni and friends of the college, we are privileged to be a part of this. Thank you.
So anyone sitting next to Dean Jones, hold him, because I got the mic now, and I need a couple things. There are a couple things I need to say. Personal privilege here. First, I want to acknowledge some folks who were with me during my time here. Jack Armstead. Jack, now, he and I went to grade school, high school, and college. So Jack, it's always good to see you, my brother. Glad you're doing well. I also want to acknowledge Joe Mims. Everybody knows Joe Mims. In fact, this is not a blasphemous statement, but to heck with Wally Wabash. We need Joe Mims to be, he is Mr. Wabash in so many ways. And Joe's been a great friend and a great supporter of the Institute and the college. So Joe, it's good to see you as well. The last person I want to speak to before I have Dean Jones come up and send us a dinner, and I know that Jackson Claiborne is going to introduce Bob Nolan, but I wanted to share some personal comments about Bob since he and I played ball together here years ago, and right now he's upset with me because he doesn't want me to say anything, I know. But we're in Knowling Fieldhouse. Think about that. We're in Knowling Fieldhouse. Let me tell y'all something. That is significant from whence we came, from whence he came. Bob talks about his background, but he became, for those of you who don't know, a really, really big deal in Silicon Valley. When I used to visit him and work with him, I'm talking about he would be regularly with Steve Jobs and John Chambers at Cisco, and your boy from Amazon, the richest man in the world, I don't need to call his name. He worked with them regularly and was treated as an expert in the tech industry. And Bob and I worked closely together. I helped him with some things in DC, and he was very close to President Clinton. So I'm gonna share one sidebar story. We both were invited to the State of the Union to witness it from the White House, and Bob and I were there, and Bob had a plane to catch. So we didn't stay the whole time, and we were sitting next to Hank Aaron and his wife and others. And Bob had to go, and so they knew me, the security, and they said, just go down the hall, your coat is down the hall, down some steps, and then make a right and you'll get there. So we're wandering around the White House about 8 or 9 o'clock at night, no escorts, opening doors, looking for our coats. Lo and behold, we open the door, we walk in, and it's the Oval Office. And we stand there and we say, man, we're in the Oval Office. And then I got nervous. I said, there's probably cameras in here. We're going to get in trouble. So we said, I thought, well, let's sit at the desk. No, we don't want to do that. That's probably got, that ain't going to work. So then we walk around and we look and there are like 5 or 6 doors and we don't know which door we came in out of. So I said, oh man, Bob. So we got to open doors. So we start opening doors and we open this door and it's like a closet, but it's like a room, like 5 or 6 people in there. And Bob said, blood, that's the Monica Lewinsky closet. True story. I said, well, we got to get out of here. We found our way out. But the reason why Bob said to me, blood, and we still refer to each other as blood or bleed, is it has significance and roots here at Wabash. Because when we were playing ball, we weren't treated well by some of our own. And Joe knows that, and Rennie knows that, and Brandon Johnson knows that. It was not easy for us being young men of color trying to play ball with some folks who really did not treat us well. And I want to give a shout out to Mac Petty, because when he came, he changed everything. Thank you, Coach. So over the years, as Bob and I have worked together on things, and whenever he says the word blood or bleed or brother, I know it comes back to the foundational roots that were established here, and it's the words and words of trust and fellowship. So Bob, thank you so much. Appreciate you, my brother, and I know we're looking forward to hearing you later. So with that, Dean Jones.
So I am taking my instructions from Mary Jo Arthur. I'm not going to get in trouble tonight. And she's coming forward and she'll tell us how this is going to happen. But it's interesting, more people sat toward the front tonight. For lunch, this whole front row was kind of empty, but that's all right. So, Mary Jo, what do you want us to do? All righty, thank you. She will come to your table, then you may go to the buffet line. Thank you.
Okay, folks, I gave y'all a little more time since you don't hang out with each other every day. Let's make sure we're wide awake. Give yourselves a hand. We're going back to round 2 now. Did you enjoy your dinner? Well, let's give a shout out to the staff that has made it all possible. In particular, Clyde Morgan, Jennifer Morgan, Kim King, Emma Campbell, Natalie Hurt. Thank them for all they've done to help make this possible. Now, most of y'all here had to pay. The students did not have to pay because of Trustee Phil Kinney, who donated for their dinner. So give Trustee Kinney a hand. I also want to thank Paul Wools and Anthony Williams for their donation of wine after the Brother to Brother. Thank you very much. Give them a hand. Anybody who donates wine is all right with me. And now, let's have a moment of silence for our deceased founders, directors, and members. Thank you very much. Let's give them a hand as well. One of the reasons why I came to Wabash, Jack was teasing me. When I graduated from Rebuff, after 4 years of an all-male school, I said, I'm going to Howard. And I teased Jack. I said, you're going to Wabash, 8 years all-male? No way I'm going to do that. But Wabash, or, you know, we plan and God has other plans. Wabash, they knew how to work it. My father had a drugstore in Indianapolis, and the admissions folks sent 3 people to sit and talk with him for 2 hours and tell him how great he was, and he came home and told me Wabash was great. And then I heard from Horace Turner. And when I heard from Horace Turner, and he talked about this community of brothers who will work for each other to fulfill their lifelong dreams, study hard, work hard, play hard, but be part of something special in a special place, something happened. And so we all know that we are in part here because of not just what Horace Turner did for many of us personally, but because of the spirit that he left as a result of his work here at Wabash. So I'm going to ask Coach Robert Johnson to come forward. Give Coach a hand. Everyone knows the coach. And Coach is going to give us a tribute to Horace Turner.
Now, you notice that stumble, right? That's for Michelle Jansen. She said, you look like you're slowing down, Coach. I said, hell, I'm 80 years old. I'm supposed to slow down a little bit. Well, they gave me 7 minutes. I gave Eugene Anderson 7 weeks, and he never showed up to practice. Some of you might want to know how we got here. Horace Turner and I coached against each other. I'm from Englewood, New Jersey, Dwight Moore High School. He's from Teaneck, New Jersey. If you remember the sitcom Welcome Back, Kotter, the Travolta family went to my high school. And that was my high school they were portraying. That was my high school they were portraying. So thanks, Bri. That's my son. Victor Ransom was a student here, and he was from New Jersey, and like the bridge program they had here, they had the Upward Bound program there, and they'd take him to Fairleigh Dickinson College, and we'd have at-risk kids with college potential and keep them on campus 6 to 8 weeks and put them through a college thing. So Victor, we get up and talk about track and stuff, and I told him some of the exciting things we were doing. And we beat some of the big schools in the state in the 4x2, and I told him our secret. Petty, you know what my secret was? I read an article in a magazine, and a kid had a machine, his father owned a machine shop. Can you make this? We used to pull kids behind a car. If you do that now, you get sued before you do the thing. But Dean Traynor, he told Dean Traynor, the late great Gerald Huntsman was retiring. He said, you need to interview this guy from New Jersey. And I said, he was at a convention in New York, so he came across the bridge and visited. I told my wife, I said, this is going to be a short visit. Because I literally married the farmer's daughter from Moscow, Idaho. and good-looking strawberry blonde. I said, he see me up, see here up my black ass. We ain't gonna make no plane trip or nothing. And he seemed to be unfazed. So I knew Wabash was desperate. They had to be desperate. So they flew us out there and said, baby, we're gonna be on television for about 2 days. Keep smiling and we'll come back home and resume our life. Well, they liked us. The wives took my family around, and the track team interviewed me, and Dick Bauerman, and Harry Dick Bauerman, he's a great runner, almost Olympic caliber runner. Huntsman developed him. He said, I didn't care if you could coach or not, but your wife was hot. We gonna hire you. So when I took the job, they asked if I knew somebody that might be the director of the Malcolm X Institute. And if you know Horace, he was fighting with his AD at Teaneck High School. He wouldn't let him go to New York and run an indoor meets. He said, damn it, I want to have a good program like you got over there in Inglewood. And so I said, there's a job out in Wabash College. He said, what is it? So, well, you'd have to be the director of the Malcolm X Institute. I think myself and Turner are probably the most unprepared people you ever hired here. I was a PE teacher and a driver's ed teacher, and Horace was an industrial arts teacher. And look what we went on to do. I don't want to practice false humility, but when Horace came with the lack of background that he had, he became a life coach. He was so generous with his time, and I was so generous with my time, that sometime, as my wife used to remind me, I spend more time with other people's kids than my own. And that caused a problem sometimes. But we love Wabash College, and Wabash Club loved us back. Now I'm not gonna be arrogant, but you guys got lucky, because you got two of the baddest ass black dudes out of Jersey you ever had. The job he did was phenomenal. He was a mentor in a local parentis in high school. Let's say, well, you're the parent during the school day. And he loved kids so much that we'd go wake up kids. And before they had the Privacy Acts, we'd call the parents and say, hey, you wasting your money. This guy ain't going to class. He don't want to act right. And they'd get pissed off. But we can't do that now with the Privacy Act. So, Eugene, what's the time going here? Okay. Hey, Eugene's loving this, because I couldn't keep him on time. He's going to keep me on time. Well, Horace was more than a friend to me. He was like a brother. When I had my quadruple bypass, he'd come over and help out and take care of me a little bit. And then later on, I got up one morning, I had to crawl to the bathroom. Petty had grabbed the toilet, and it was spinning. And I thought I was gonna die. After 5 minutes, I hoped I would die. I had vertigo. I didn't know where the hell I was. I was upside down. And I told the officer said, well, you can't drive to these cross-country meets in a van. You can't drive kids. Horace gave up his time and was a driver for me to the cross-country meets. That's the kind of guy he was. And very competitive. If you go down and see all the pole vault gadgets, because he was industrial art, he'd look at it and make it. He was so bold, he'd go over there, and they were so used to him in the maintenance, he had his own, he'd go over and use the tools. He didn't ask nobody nothing, he just keep using the tools. So I'm going to end by saying that if it were not for Horace and our families, stand up, family. My daughter was 5 years as a LA cop, PD, police, and they said, "Aren't you worried about her being hurt?" I said, "Hell no, I'm worried about the perpetrator. She mean. That girl whoops some ass." And my son went to North Central College and was All-American in track and played football. And I got some of the greatest grandkids in the world. That's it.
We didn't let him run from the stage.
Good evening. First off, publicly, I want you to know I love you.
Love you back. Let me hang around with him and track him. He doesn't need me.
I need him, and I'm about to tell you why I need him, why I needed him. I brought my young family here. He had a story. I brought my young family here. I was 32, wet behind the ear, leaving my alma mater and bringing my wife. That was a nest for us. We were finally leaving the nest. And so I wasn't sure about this place, and we have something in common. I didn't know how to put it, and he told me years later, he goes, "Man, everybody at this place was suspiciously too nice to me." And I related to Coach, like it was unbelievable. And for him, at first, the first 3 days, we're talking, I said, "Man, this guy's suspiciously too supportive of me." And so I started getting to know this place, and I was asking about my predecessors, and I want to know the foundation of the cross-country and track programs. And I started finding out what true character was about and what it meant to be a man. And you find people that, especially when you have as much success as Coach had, you got those Olympic rings up there and you know all this honors. Wherever I go, they're asking me about this man. But those type of people usually want to tell you how good they were, you know, things that they accomplished, right? But he was always telling me the things he did wrong. And it wasn't about track and field. And he continues to this day. He tell me things he did wrong to help me be a better father, a better coach, a better mentor. And that is more damn important to me than any damn banner, Coach. And when he talks, I write. He'll tell you. You know, I used to write, but now we got all this high-tech technology, so I said, "Coach, hold on, I'm not being disrespectful." He knows now I'm writing. Because one of my gifts from my mom, from her popping me when I was young, was to learn how to listen. I was that kid, she'd be talking and I'm over, listen. She taught me how to listen early. And I'm glad I learned how to listen so I can take in everything this man was giving me for years. And I just want to take some time, not just for myself, for my staff, or the MXI, but for this college, the roots of this place, to let you know what you mean to us, man. I want your family to know, thank you. And I mean that from the bottom of my heart, because you know what? It's hard to be a coach's kid. A wife, a husband, an uncle, it is hard because he said it earlier. When you do it right, you invest time in other people. And he's done it right. But at the same time, you got to remember about your family. So I want to say thank you to you guys for sharing this man with us. You have no idea how proud of you guys he is. He talks about you all the time. But just once again, thanks for letting him hang out with me. And I thank you, and I appreciate you, Coach. I got, my man's a relay guy. He's a legend in relays. So I said, what can be good for him? And I was praying on it. I can't make it up. And we got these Mondo reps that are trying to work their way into our indoor facility. And I said, okay, we're going to see how much they they want to have a conversation. I said, can you get me a baton from Tokyo? I said, because Coach Johnson loved batons, and they took care of business for us.
In addition to the baton, we have a plaque, and it reads, Malcolm X Institute, Wabash College. Tell Us Something Good Award, Robert H. Johnson, Honorary 77, for your years of life lessons and laughs shared with MXIBS brothers, April 23rd, 2022.
Thank you. I'm going to say one more thing. I've been doubly blessed. The Bob Nolan family in this field house, I think he had something to do with my name up on the track. I've been doubly blessed. Usually you're dead before they name something to you. But in my case, it was better because I got it up before Clyde got here. So he did knocked all my records out in 3 years. What? Where's Bob Nolan? He was traveling somewhere and he met a high school coach from Oregon, one of the best coaches in the state. And he was having a clinic and he told the guy about me. I was an Olympic coach. He said, well, we don't, our budget's set. We can't fly him in. He said, I'll fly him in. So Bob flew me in, but I got confused. Petty, when I got on a plane, I went back, I couldn't find my seat. You know why? I was in first class.
Let's give Coach another hand. Thank you so much. So we're coming near the end, but there are a couple other points of recognition. First of all, I'm going to read the names of all who have served as directors of the MXIBS. Dr. Peter Frederick, Horace Turner, Dr. Tim Lake, Dr. Michael Brown, Chat Collier, Alan Hill, Stephen L. Jones. Give them all a big round of applause. And many of the past chairmen of the MXI students are here. If you were a chairman of the MXI during your tenure here, please stand and be recognized. Former chairman. Oh, and by the way, I'm standing too, just so you know. Before I bring Jackson Claiborne up to introduce our keynote speaker, I want to recognize two final people. One is current senior Leo Warbington, who championed the Unity Week here. Give him some love. He is following in the tradition of activism. Thank you. And yes, I know everyone honored him last night, but Bob Wedgeworth, I always have to bow when I see Bob Wedgeworth. Last quick story from me. I told him this earlier. When I first got to DC to go to law school, and then I used to study in the Library of Congress, and the librarian was so nice to me, and she said, you know, you're a nice young man. Where'd you go to school? I said, Wabash College. Oh, do you know Bob Wedgeworth? I said, well, yeah. He said, yeah, you know, he went to Wabash College. I said, yeah. He said, you know, he's done a lot for our industry. And over time, I would meet more and more people from the Library Association who knew Bob Wedgeworth. In fact, I have a podcast, and I had someone on just last month to talk about book banning, and she said, I saw in your bio you went to Wabash. Do you know Bob Wedgeworth? So, you know, in DC, I was getting asked this so much, there would always be a follow-up. question. Well, when was the last time you talked to him? So I started, say about 2 weeks ago. It may be like 2 months or 2 years, but that's how legendarily important Bob has been for the research, library, and periodical community. Give him another round of applause. Thank you, Bob. Thank you for boosting my credibility because I went to your school. Finally, let's bring up current senior Jackson Claiborne, who will introduce Bob Nolan, our keynote speaker.
So I'm grateful to be here tonight. There's a lot of history, and it's very powerful to hear your experiences and just how much these individuals and the MXI's history mean to you. But tonight, it is my distinct honor to introduce our keynote speaker, Mr. Bob Nolan, a man that is a true leader of industry, and from what I gathered in the last 24 hours, incredibly humble and modest for all he has accomplished throughout his career. Mr. Bob Nolan is more than a successful corporate and business leader. He's been a leader in the implementation of digital communications. He's a father, author, mentor, volunteer, and philanthropist. Nolan was born in Kokomo in 1955. He is one of 13 siblings. His early experiences drove Bob's thirst for success. He is quoted by the Financial Times as saying he wanted to prove an African American could succeed despite racism, and I do believe he's done that. That determination helped him earn athletic scholarships at Wabash College, where he received a Bachelor of Arts in Theology, which would be followed up with an MBA from Northwestern University. In 1977, Nolan went to work for Indiana Bell, moving through departments and promotions and building his track record. After Indiana Bell merged with Ameritech, he was put in charge of restructuring the new entity, and then promoted to Vice President of Network Operations. U.S. West succeeded in luring him away in 1996 as their Executive Vice President of Network Operations and Technology. Covad then tapped him for Chairman, President, and CEO in 1998. Nolan led the company through its rapid growth and initial public offering to become the largest and most recognizable brand in the high-speed internet access industry. From 2003 to 2005, Bob was CEO of the New York City Leadership Academy, a nonprofit organization that is chartered with developing the next generation of principals in the New York City public school system. Nolan is presently the chairman of Eagle Landing Partners, which specializes in helping senior management formulate strategy and executive advising to CEOs. He is a lifelong supporter of local and national YMCA programs, and he has served in numerous more corporate and nonprofit boards. Without further ado, please join me in welcoming a little giant on whose shoulders we all stand, Mr. Bob Nolan.
Oh, good afternoon. The word keynote speaker is not appropriate, and I would like to thank Dean Jones for asking me a couple years ago to do this. And I remember regretting that I said yes. And before we knew that COVID was a pandemic, I called up my good friend Kevin Chavis and conveniently asked him if he could substitute for me. Kevin said yes, and then the pandemic came and I wasted that favor. So when he called the second time, I figured I should probably do this. And I'm so not worthy to stand before you, and the good news is I'm almost done. I am humbled to share a few words. Unfortunately, I am not a great speech maker. First time I addressed an audience, I was a general manager. 500 people in the audience. There was a hotel at Hilton on the Circle. And in less than 10 minutes, I did a dive off of the stave. I fainted. They tell me it was about a 9.3 in difficulty. And my CEO said, "You've got to fix that." And I called on a professor here at Wabash, Joe O'Rourke, and said, "I need help." Been able to call on people my entire life, and I heard stories today of young men talking about how they came to Wabash. I didn't know who Wabash was. I was planning to go to a Big Ten school, the first in my family to go to college. I'm one of 13 children to a single mom. I grew up on welfare. I grew up where no one before me had even finished high school. I just so happened to have been a fairly decent athlete. We had lost a game for the conference championship in baseball. And our baseball coach, who was also the basketball coach, was a strong disciplinarian. And I knew after losing that game, we were going to be punished the next day. Some guy named Rob Johnson had been calling, leaving messages. So I decided I'm going to miss practice and go see this place called Wabash. I didn't have a car, so I had a friend. I said, "We're going to go to Wabash." And do you know that we took off and we were heading to Wabash, Indiana? This is well before Google Maps. But yet we had left in enough time that we got here early. And I walked into Baxter 101, and Rob Johnson and Horace Turner were sitting there. I knew neither one of them. I didn't know the school was all male. I didn't know if it was Division III NAIA. And a number of people started coming in the door. Thaddeus Seymour, the president of the college. Snowy Simpson. He looked like one of the seven dwarfs. He was the basketball coach. The football coach walked in. The athletic director walked in. The head of the Department of Religion walked in. And I was blown away that they were there to tell the Wabash story. So I didn't have any parents that could give me advice. I knew not a soul here. But I said yes, and when I came to this campus the first night, I'm not afraid to tell you that I cried. I cried because I was all alone. I cried because I was in over my head. I cried because I didn't know if I was good enough, athletically or academically. And I had a tough experience, like everybody in the room did. Kevin talked about the injustices that we experienced. The football team was great. One of my football teammates is here tonight. He's on the trustee board, Gary Remy. And what I remember about Gary is that he was such a leader. Gary was a guy that would come into the huddle and the huddle would change. This guy never took a play off. Easy to follow someone when they lead by example. Football was great. I think I was the second leading scorer, not because I was good. When you kick extra points and field goals, you get to cheat and accumulate points. Basketball season came. And here in that gym, I was booed. Not just one game, every time I went into the game. As a sophomore, I was booed. Joe Mims was here. Renwick, you hadn't joined the team yet, but another one of my teammates, Renwick Young, is here. By the way, do you know that he retired as the treasurer of Marathon? That is huge. Congratulations, Renwick. And the only reason I tell that story is that not woe is me and feel sorry for me, but because of Horace and Coach Johnson, I didn't have a father, but I did when I got here. And they not just were spiritual advisors, academic advisors. They were there, went through the ups and the downs. I dropped a pass with 11 seconds left in the game against DePaul. Hated DePaul. I dropped a pass, 47 yards. I had it. And instead of doing what I'm supposed to do, of grab it and tuck it, I grabbed it, and Bob Wedgeworth, I was gonna hold it up in victory, and I dropped the darn thing. About as low as I've ever been. But the brothers at the Institute, they embraced me. So I'm going to wrap my remarks up just by telling all of you thank you. Thank you for the honor of allowing me to serve here with you. Thank you for the honor of allowing me to be a part of your experiences. This has been a wonderful, wonderful event. And I would just say that in closing, it's not about me, it's not about any of the alums, it's all about you guys that are here now. I remember when Bob Wedgeworth would come to the campus. I remember when Doc McDowell would come to the campus. I remember every time, because those were the examples, those were the icons that gave us inspiration that maybe I can do it too. I want to thank Chat Collier. Chat was an inspiration to me for those 2 years he was here. He literally was our spiritual leader. I don't know if he ever had a struggle here because he never showed me any weakness. And I wanted to grow up and hopefully be like Chat. So Chat, I thank you for setting the bar very high and inspiring me. Dean Jones, you're doing a great job. You're not Horace, you're just different. And the day I came over and spent some time with you, I knew that we had found a great successor. So I thank you for all that you're doing, and just let me know how I or anybody else can help you, because we're here to serve. I'd be remiss if I didn't say thank you to people like Joe Mims. What an inspiration. Kevin and I used to talk about what we would do when we grew up, how we would change the world. He dated my sister, I dated his sister. We both got dumped. We've worked together. When he ran for mayor, he knew I couldn't do the hard work, as Eugene said, but I could write the checks. And he's been like a brother. My roommate, Larry Walker, Dr. Larry Walker. You'll never meet a more sincere, authentic individual. Larry has inspired me my entire life. I owe a great debt of gratitude for him showing me humility, service, and stick-to-itness. This guy wanted to be a doctor. He set the example for how to put the work in, and he became a great doctor. And Larry, it's been so good to see you. If nothing more, just getting that hug from you last night has probably been one of the greatest things that's happened in my journeys back to Wabash. This is a young man that I will love the rest of my life. So let me close by just saying, I apologize to all of you current students that I don't do more. I apologize that I don't come back. Coach Petty has been my mentor, has been my inspiration. And when he came here my senior year, he told me that in order to play for me, I had to quit football. And Gary, you'll remember I wasn't a bad football player. What I didn't know is those were leadership lessons he was teaching me. He was hard on me. I didn't understand him. I felt like he was really, really tough on me, but I can tell you in my professional life, I've used his methods, I've used his sayings often. You go into a new organization and you want to stop the winning, you start by putting your stakes in the ground, and here is what we're going to be. And that's what he said to us. There were only 2 seniors. He says, the losing stops now. You want to play for me? You can't play football. And I went in Coach Navarro's office and I said, hey, Coach, I have to quit. And his response was, well, let me go talk to this new coach. And I says, I don't want you to talk to him because I want to play for him. And that's an experience that was some of the highlight. Basketball was fun under Coach Petty. Anytime he calls, whether it's to talk to a candidate, talk to a parent, open a door, I'm always going to be there. He and his wife, they have made me a part of their family. Darkest day of my life was May the 6th, 6 years ago. My son, Robert Jason, passed away in my arms unexpectedly. I can tell you that I lost my way. I don't know how to tell you how parents get through that. I am a born-again Christian, and the Lord is my Savior. Coach Petty called me. And here's what he told me. You're a man of God. This is when He carries you. And I found my way again. So what I would say is, President Fowler, I'm going to use something out of Star Wars where Yoda said, don't try, do. I'm going to do better. I'm going to do better to help here. I'm going to do better to help MXI. I'm going to do better to help these young men. I've done some things, but I haven't done near enough. And I pledge that this day forward, I will do more because you're not in this journey alone. Again, I would say thank you, Chat, for everything you inspired in me. Kevin, thanks for being my best friend. Larry, thanks for being my soulmate. It's been a wonderful honor to come back to this school. Bob, to see you recognized, long overdue. This man played on a basketball team in the 50s. Can you imagine what that was like? I know the words I was called on the road, Bob. I'm sure you heard similar. Well-deserved, long overdue. I thank you for allowing me to come and spend a little time with you. They gave me way too much time. As my kids say, Dad, they actually listened to you. I appreciate the fact that you did. I think Coach Johnson told me I'm supposed to tell him to come up for the final word. So I'm done. Thank you for your time.
It's got to be quick. Got to be quick. Have a seat.
Where's Coach Morgan? Explain what those initials mean. Loud and clear so everybody can hear you. All right, Wabash men, stand up. I love doing this. Boys like noise. This is my mantra. The will to win. The will to win. Begins within. The Wabash men know how to win. I am a Wabash man. I know I can. I am a Wabash man. I know I can. One hell yeah and a Ric Flair. Hell yeah.
A special thank you to Kevin Chavis. As always, wonderful job. Appreciate you. Nobody leading up until tonight would have thought we'd be out of here before 9 o'clock, but look at your watch. But we've got one other thing to take care of. You don't have a 50th celebration without talking about the seeds that are planted to ensure that you have another 50 years. And so I'm going to ask my partner in crime, someone who I've done a lot of good things with, what I refer to as good trouble, to ask Eugene Anderson to come to the stage and give us a quick summary of what we've done this weekend.
Well, I'm back. So, what a great evening. What a great evening. You know, I'd be remiss if, Dean Jones has gotten a lot of accolades, but he didn't do this alone. He has a staff that has been incredible. We've gotten emails, we've gotten phone calls, we've gotten more emails and more phone calls. So let me just ask, and he didn't ask me to do this, Dean Jones' staff to stand to be recognized. So, 12 years ago, in this very room, we celebrated our 40th anniversary. And at that event, I was able, along with some other alums, to plant the seed for how we were going to go forward as an institute. And that seed was a financial seed, and with the help of some lead gifts, and Bob Wedgeworth always is there, Bob Nolan and Chet and Joe Mims and others joined me in announcing that night that we were making a gift of $40,000 to create the Horace Turner Fund. And so over the years, the group has done various things during the Day of Challenge, Day of Giving rather, and that same group provided some matching money. We couldn't do like the trustees, but we seeded some additional money. But we realized that we were really growing some small flowers, and that we needed to do more. And so then we decided we needed a legacy fund that would be an endowed fund, that would give us some momentum and help us to do the things to help the young people who were coming to Wabash College, not just in the recent years and not in the next 10 years, but 20, 25 years down the road. So we began that journey. And so, President Felder, I'm going to ask a point of personal privilege, and that you would just anoint me for just a few minutes so that Michelle Jansen, who I've only seen and talked to on or via Zoom, but haven't officially met. I don't want her to come up and I don't want one of those slap moments on the stage tonight. And so, if you remember last night after we honored Bob Wedgeworth, we asked most of you to leave so that we could have our brother-to-brother session. And that brother-to-brother session was just that. We had some real talk about what we needed to do and how we needed to do it. We had some leadership, some incentive, because, and you've heard his name all night long, Joe Mims, class of '76, made a significant gift of $125,000. But being Joe did something else. He simply said, use it as matching, dollar for dollar. And so last night, Dean Jones allowed me to speak to my brothers, and I said we needed to step up and give back. And I too am a Christian, and I have a Baptist background. I just don't have the degree or the license to be a pastor, but I know how to raise a little money. And so we began working towards that match. And I could look in their eyes, they were tired, and so I told them, I tell you what, I will sit down when we reached $75,000 last night. And so within 15 minutes, we raised 89,000. But, be as it may, between last night and as I stand before you today, we now have raised in pledges $201,000. Now, as I prepare to take my seat, we're not there yet. Because there were people who weren't in the room, okay? I'm not gonna make you stand up tonight, but I know who you are. But the other thing, this is about a family. This is about relationships. And this is about partnerships. And so what I'm going to ask you, on your table, you have information about the Legacy Fund. And what I would like to see, and Steve and I've had this conversation because Michelle Jansen knows this, any financial person knows this, $500,000 endowment, so what? So what? So we need your help. Because where we want to be in less than 5 years is at $1 million. And so if you have it within your heart, and especially within your wallet, we're asking each and every one of you to think about making a gift to the Legacy Fund. We can do this. We can do this. We will do this, or I'll be back.
So that is the official wrap of the program. There are a few honorary members here tonight, and what we would like to do, including the daughter of one of our founding members is with us. She reached out to me a couple of years ago, and we have stayed in contact, and so I would like for her to stand. It's been great conversing with you via email, and I think Chuck Ransom has shared every story that he could to make and fill in the space of things that you maybe did not know. But what I would ask as we get ready to depart, all of the honorary members of the MXIBS and supporters of the MXIBS go over to this side. There are bleachers that are set up, and I'll ask Kim to get a quick picture. Others of you, there is the 50th anniversary backdrop. If you haven't already taken a picture there, please do so. And we love you. I thank you. I already told my staff via text earlier today, thank you for all that they're doing. So Eugene, I try to stay on top of it, but I appreciate the public acknowledgement as well. It has been a mighty good day. It's been a mighty good day. And to DJ Singfield, my brother. So thank you all. Enjoy the rest of your evening because it is 8:24. President Feller, I told you I could do it. Take care. Have a good night.